All right. What it is, Daniacs. I'm getting to this a little bit late, but I am going to be recording over my. I think this is my second live appearance, and it's my first appearance on the Witch Doctor's channel. And I'm gonna have to hit this in sections because my data is super low. But I just wanted to get some of this on my channel right here. Um, it was a really good showing. I show a lot of. I'll just get into it. Let me and Witch Doctor talk right here. So let's roll with it.
Bunch of starting my life over a bunch of times, and things weren't going the way I liked them, even while doing this really badass stuff. So yeah. I was like, "What the heck, man?" I felt like there had to be something else out there to make things, I guess, make more sense or whatever. Because when you're an atheist, you want to be religious half the time. You just don't believe it. Yeah. You know how the
luxury. I said yeah, as if I have ever experienced that. I have never. Well, I mean, I have a bunch of atheist friends, so secondhand, I'm familiar with the perception, but not firsthand. I have always been some kind of theist. I have never been atheist. I have always believed in some kind of magic. Some kind of magic. The magic is in the mind, y'all. The magic is in the perception, in our consciousness, and our awareness.
Of people who are, since we're talking about atheism at the moment, the luxury of people that believe the religions. You don't know how lucky you are. I wish I had that going out the wire when I was 20 years old on the freaking Humvee, in Iraq. Yeah. Everybody sit around praying before we.
I believe in reincarnation, and that is definitely. I have a very small fear of death. Let's just put it that way. Don't get me wrong. I want to live. Bubby, I'm fucking recording, dude. Lay down.
Oh, and all the atheists are staring at each other like, "Hey, good luck, motherfucker." Yeah, I'll see you out there, guys. And just fuck. And then you get older and you learn a lot more about that, and then you learn a lot more about religion too. And then I've entertained Christianity so much. I've gone to church in high school. I was always an atheist, though. In the book, I can't stand church. Yeah, I like youth nights because it keeps kids from doing other stuff. It's just that we still did the other stuff when we weren't at the youth nights. We just went there as a place to go during the week because we were bored and didn't want to be at home, for whatever reasons. Everybody's parents were divorcing. The millennial population, all of our parents got divorced when we were in high school because the parents were like, "Oh shit, this didn't work." And they were all miserable and stuff. So like you go places to deal with that. All my friends were atheists in high school. So finally people understand how I felt about that. I mean, I remember in 7th grade being on the playground, like for recess and shit, and telling my best buddies that I didn't believe in God, and them looking at me like I was insane and being like, "Well, how do y'all believe in it?" I was like, I never understood how you even believed it. It was so Santa Claus-ish that at least the way that I was thinking about it back then. But then I had some entheogens, and ironically, my mother, an anthropology major, and insanely educated on entheogens, she, protecting me as a child, didn't really let me know a lot about that. However, she had all the education in the world. So I didn't really, when my friends were doing mushrooms in high school, I didn't do them. I was scared.
That was me, bro. I'm going to be getting into this, so I don't want to step on my content already, but that was me, bro.
I don't want to step on this subject because this is part of our itinerary. Yes, it is. Yeah. And that's what was going to wrap us into what we were doing today, guys. So today we wanted to be a little bit more organized. So what we did was Dane put together an itinerary. It's something to kind of help the channel out too, just so that we can stay more. Give us some direction. Yeah, as we go. For the episode. And so we have some cool features here on StreamYard we're going to try out today. At the end, we have a questionnaire that all the guests on the show are going to answer every time they're on. Next time we have Tiger Shark. Next time we have Chase. They're going to go through the questionnaire because we didn't have it in the other episodes. So in addition to a questionnaire, we wanted to make sure that we could flow through this conversation with some kind of direction. And that way we don't do a 6-hour interview and then everybody's dead tonight. So, well, we just want to pack all the content we can and make it really juicy all the way through. Yeah, and one of the things that me and Dane were talking about yesterday, just texting back and forth with the dang snow we had, was addiction. and stuff. So like I used to use nicotine, right? A lot of soldiers do. But then I got away from the nicotine after quitting a dozen times and after using different cigarettes. Yeah, like vapes and Zen pouches. And before that, there was cigarettes and dip all the way down to when I was in high school. So this 20-year relationship with nicotine, I broke that last year.
Yeah, that's badass.
I finally gave it up. But, bro, let me tell you, I still crave it every day of my life.
Well, they say that it's proven that nicotine is harder to quit than heroin. They say that's been proven. I haven't looked into the studies myself, but that's what I've heard.
A friend told me that when I was like 22. It was a dude that used to dip all the time. He was an old Marine that was a huge pothead. And he goes, Steve, all you're allowed to do while you're in the military, because I was still in the Army, he's like, you can only drink and smoke cigarettes, and that stuff kills you. And he was one of those first older military veterans that had started figuring stuff out. And he was so pissed off that I was in the military because I had already gone to Iraq once. And he was like, damn it, dude, you don't understand what they're doing this war for. It's all for money. And I was like, no, there's like terrorists and stuff, whatever. But he didn't fight with me too much because he was in the Marine Corps himself and he was deployed and he knows.
My thoughts on that is if you are defending your country, then you're freedom fighting. But if you are attacking another country, then you are attacking the other country's freedom. And America has been all up in other countries attacking their freedom. I'll come out and say it. And it's, I've heard the stories. I've had friends that were in the military telling me about they would be the ones guarding the oil convoy trucks. They're saying it was all about the damn oil, dude.
You can't go do that stuff if you know all the corruption's there. You kind of have to just be ignorant, which reminds me of religion.
Brings us to religion.
it has this position of ignorance, and believing in that gives you a lot of balls to go out the wire and stuff, and to carry on a mission. I mean, you think about the Crusades, and it's like you're doing all of this in the name of a unified message, and it's this dude from 1,000 years ago that was supposedly a divine dude, and even though we had a bunch of them before, we're all behind it. And if you're a second-born son, you get to go to the four corners of the earth and have a plot of land and 40 acres and a mule. So who wouldn't jump on this bandwagon that we call the Crusades? Unfortunately, that's all my ancestors. They're all the same dudes, I'm a British, just the same population of people that were involved in all of that. So I have a really special place in my heart for Christianity. And I know people with addiction will sometimes use religion to get through addictions and stuff. So I think sometimes there could be sort of a good side to it there. I almost feel like churches could be rehab centers.
Well, I also feel like that can be a double-edged sword too, though, because I think there's a lot of people out there who on the adverse side, they started off in religion and it drove them to addiction,
Right.
So I think it's just like anything. It depends on how you use it.
Roger. So following some of our itinerary here, we were going to talk a little bit more about addiction. Have you dealt with anything addictive in the past that was really hard to break that you're willing to talk about just because?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's why when you were talking about yours earlier, I didn't want to step on the itinerary. So yeah, I'll go ahead and lay all that down. Yeah.
Right. When I was from a younger age?
Yeah. When I was 13, I was allowed to smoke weed. My mom was a pothead, and she was allowed to smoke weed when she was 13. She was allowed to trip when she was 15. I was allowed to trip on acid and mushrooms when I was 14. And when I say allowed, I don't mean my mom turned a blind eye to it. She brought me and my brother home acid when I was 14. But she made sure we were in a controlled environment, that she was supervising us. And then after that, and then after that, we had all kinds of friends hitting up cow fields,
right?
The mushrooms,
friends.
And then we lived way out in the woods down there in Florida, and we would have big old parties at my house. From the time we were 14 on up, and sometimes some parties got out of hand. And this is before all the social media stuff, but people just started texting each other. All of a sudden, there was 100 motherfuckers in my tiny little house, and I'm like, I don't even know most of these motherfuckers, and it actually pissed me off. I didn't like it. I'm like, I didn't invite y'all. Hey, who invited y'all?
in the country, bro, everyone knows there's a party. Everyone shows up.
Oh, Florida's a party state.
Dude,
Florida,
yeah, my house.
State.
South Carolina, I was down in the swamp in the low country near Beaufort, Charleston. I'm from Walterboro, right?
Yeah.
And I would make flyers, and it would have directions from the stadium to my house. Because everyone's in the country. You're 6 miles away from each other, not just like the other neighborhood over.
Yeah.
So it would have directions on where to turn. There's an American flag on this white fence. It's a big 17-acre farm. It's a long driveway with oak trees, and I would draw a map, just like freaking kids, you know, to a treasure hunt. And I would pass them out at school. And this was right when everybody had those indestructible Nokia phones, but no smartphones, no flip phones.
Yes.
Right? The ones, and they would never die. They'd last.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Someone still got them bitches, and they still work.
Dude, right? It's like they use those on bombs because they'll never fail.
Yeah.
So we would do stuff like that, but I was not exposed to LSD, but my friends had mushrooms. Now, did your mom do that because from a shaman, witch doctor type of perspective? And I hate to use the own name of the dang show, but was she like more of a pagan type of mom that thought that you were old enough now because you're going through puberty that you can now have this because she knows it's not going to affect you in that kind of way?
She was raised as Jehovah's Witness, and my mom got out of that when she was 18.
What?
And, yeah.
Okay.
Well, she got out of that when she was 18, and she just started. Well, she got kicked out actually because she was different. She just started studying everything. She liked to claim pagan, but it really wasn't like old school pagan, because pagan is like all the old school Norse gods and shit. It was
right.
Omnism, I think, is a term that I've came across that most accurately describes it, where you just kind of study everything and you believe that there's truth and divinity in every theology. And that's really more like what she was. But she liked to claim pagan.
I think that's cool, though. I think that's
and she was cool as shit. After the first couple trips, she wasn't there for us like on every trip, you know, because a lot of times it was with friends, even though it was at the house, but she was working a lot, you know. But we always did. She always said, if you're going to trip, come to the house and trip. She did not want us going to other.
Now, every time he puts me on single screen, it freezes me and fucks me up because I only like being on single screen in Dane's world, okay? Because when I'm on other people's channel, I like to be, a little bit more normal. But so when you start putting me on single screen, you know, I might start getting confused and start thinking it's Dane's world and to start saying some crazy shit, extra crazy, you know. So I tell him that later on, but it was fucking me up right here.
Places in a messed up situation or something. So she always made sure that we had a safe environment to do that in. And we lived way out in the woods.
Same.
It's like, thank God he put on the split screen again. I was freaking out with that single screen. Even though that's the thing though, like I'm so used to the single screen just being able to say whatever the fuck I want that I don't want to start getting confused now with that single screen. I don't want to start getting a witch doctor in trouble over there too much.
We lived way out in the woods, and my mom was cool as shit. She was a little bipolar, but she was cool as shit.
Yeah, my dad was a little bit, but I think that was because he was an army guy and he got out and was miserable. So you just hate your life. So what do? You try to do something else that people can't do. My family is they're known for doing a lot of shit. Like we were the kids that were rappelling off of rocks in elementary school.
Oh, hell yeah.
Other kids' parents were like, what the fuck?
What are you doing?
like Aussie style and stuff, you know.
That's badass.
Scuba diving. Like my brother got it when he was 12. I just got it later in life because when I was that age, we were doing stuff with horses. We were getting all these Arabian show horses and stuff. My sister was in competitions and stuff. My dad was in Civil War reenactments and just, I don't know. I grew up, it's just weird, military to farm life, like Green Acres, but from a military family, not the city, right? You know?
Yeah.
You know, Green Acres, they get this farm. It's going to be fun, right? And they get their ass kicked every day. But I was around it. I was around the shrooms, and I was around the cannabis for a while. And then I was in the Army, so I didn't really deal with anything other than nicotine and maybe alcohol addiction to a degree. My dad said that his biological father had a little bit of a drinking thing, and I think that might be because it was funny when I would drink beer, I'd get these splotches all over, these red splotches everywhere. You know, some days it wouldn't be that way, and some days it would. It would be different types of alcohol. But I've come to really not like or crave alcohol at all. And there was a time that I was looking forward to drinking every weekend, but with the use of cannabis, I was able to at least break the drinking habit. And ironically, 6 months after starting cannabis as a war veteran with diagnosed PTSD and everything, I didn't like medications for that stuff because I was just always scared that it was going to do irreversible damage if it was too much. And I had a problem with addiction. So I was scared of being given like a Xanax prescription because I was scared I would eat them too often.
You would like it too much?
Yeah, you know, and I'm just being honest. I just was scared of that. So I never took it. I never got that from them. And so cannabis helped that. But what was even funnier was after 6 months of using cannabis.
Man, I got a Xanny story, dude. I got a Xanny story. I never did them much at all. I only did them 2 times in my whole life, and each time I did a Xanny, I fucked my car up. And so it only happened twice, and after that, I'm like, no, fuck that. The first time, okay, I had a dude, where's my car moment, or day, actually. I woke up, and my ankle was hurting. I did Xannies the night before, and I finally, like, wobble out to go somewhere, and my car wasn't there. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Where? And I said literally, dude, where's my car? Like, seriously. I'm like, where the fuck is my car? I could not remember where my car was. And so I started retracing my steps from the night before, and I saw my car on the side of the road a couple miles from the house. And as soon as I saw it, I remembered what happened. Like, I wasn't driving too good, and I hit a fucking curb, and it fucked my tire all up, and I had to just ditch my car there and walk home, which is why my ankle hurt. Okay. And then the second time I ever did Xannies was a couple years after that, and that first time was in Florida. The second time was up in Arkansas, and the second time I did Xannies, I fucked my car up too, because I wasn't used to the hills and shit, and I parked my car, but I didn't put it in gear or something, and it was on a slight slope, and I started walking away from it, and my car just slowly started going down the hill, and like by the time I noticed it was too late, I couldn't get to it. It fucking went down the hill and crashed right into a damn tree and messed up the radiator and shit. But that's all my Xanny stories, just 2 of them.
Cannabis, I actually started competing in bodybuilding because I was finally able to like handle the stress of that lifestyle. That's a really stressful and hard lifestyle to do.
Yeah.
Is silly as the whole beauty pageant is.
Yeah.
It's you know, what the heck, you know. And you know, lots of chemicals and stuff involved, but I still wasn't like an entheogen guy much. It was just when you're on trend, marijuana really levels you out, you know.
Oh, really?
Really over aggressive asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cannabis really helps that. At least you can extinguish your emotions and just try to go to sleep.
See, me personally, I have never once in my life considered doing any kind of steroid because I was born with I was born with puberty onset gyno, so I got a little bit of gyno anyway, and I would not do anything to ever make that worse. You know, it's just a little bit, but it's just enough to be like, damn, you got some big ass nipples, boy. You know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and that's just dudes with high testosterone. I had the same thing, and honestly, I had to take so much shit to dry that up. Oh my God, I could have easily been a candidate for the surgery, but I didn't want to be walking around with waiting on the operation to heal and stuff. And if they mess it up, they make you look all funny, you know, and everything. Yeah. This ends up sounding like a freaking, this sounds like chicks that are getting their boobs done. It sounds like that kind of conversation. It's going to mess them up.
I was just saying, you know, it used to bother me for a long time. It used to bother me for a long time, you know, because, you know, walking around with some big ass nipples, people be looking at your big ass nipples, you know.
You can take some letrozole and that will help dry that up, because obviously your body, it has high testosterone, so you are aromatizing a lot of estrogen. The body will turn that testosterone into DHT or estrogen. However, it's usually the black dudes in 6th grade with a six-pack that don't do anything that have DHT derivative, whereas the white boys, sometimes we get with the estrogen, which is why I got a full head of hair.
Awesome.
I did not go bald with taking all those performance enhancing, things back in the day. I didn't lose my hair, and a lot of guys do. But yeah, either way, man.
Can I continue with my drug journey? Because that was just the beginning of it. That was just the beginning of my drug journey.
Continue, sir.
All right, so I started getting into Roxy's and Oxys when I was about.
See, he did it again. I let him know eventually. I'm like, yo, man, it's freaking me out when you put me on by myself.
15, and at first it was just a little bit here and there, but it was increasingly more and more to the point where I was doing it every weekend. I never did it every single day because I had such ridiculous fucking tolerance that I couldn't possibly afford to do it every day. My dose that I got up to was 8 Roxy 30s at a time. I would snort 4 and eat 4 back to back and try to make it home before I started nodding out. And sometimes that didn't happen. Sometimes I waited a little bit too long to start driving home. And there was one time I was nodding out and woke up going through someone's fence. I took their fence down. Like, oh fuck, man! I went to go in reverse to get the fuck out of there before they came out and say, well, you got to pay for my new fence, And then the fence was stuck in my car. I'm like, oh shit! I had to jump out and fucking unhook it from my car and then haul ass out of there. There was another time I nodded out right at a damn stop sign and woke up going. Luckily, it was in Florida and there wasn't a mountain, but I just woke up going into a ditch, and luckily I was able to get out of there. I was like, fuck, dude. So, actually, when I quit doing weed is when I started doing pills a whole bunch. And I had to start smoking weed again to get me off the pills. And once I got away from the pills, I was like, fuck that shit. I wasted 5 years of my life on opiate pills. And I'll never go back to that. Well, actually, when my mom died, her face rotted off from cancer about 8 years ago. She left behind 2 bottles of Hydros. And I was so fucked up in the head. I just did. I mean, I shared a lot too, but I did that shit in 2 weeks, but I haven't touched the pills since. And so I've been mostly clean since I've been in Arkansas off of pills.
Yeah.
So
it's real normal.
Still addicted to weed. And I really need to quit smoking it, though. It's fucking my lungs up. Really do.
For bodybuilders to get on the painkillers too, because they're just in pain from all the damn training.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, but here's the thing. Instead of having a prescription for something, because obviously a lot of doctors aren't going to be a fan of you abusing anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go the kratom route.
Okay.
And I had some friends that talked about how they wish they didn't go so hard on the kratom because they got kind of hooked on it.
Well, I didn't even hear about kratom till recently, like in the last couple of years, because up here a lot of the welders were taking kratom, and I was welding for a while. I was a welder out at Ranger Boats. If you're a bass man, you know about Ranger Boats.
Oh yeah.
I did kratom a couple times, and it tastes like fucking shit, but it felt really good though. But if you did, it was easy to take too much and puke, and I hate puking. So just the drawbacks weren't worth. But it was scarily just as good as the opiates that I used to do when I was younger. So that's another thing. I'm like, nah, I like this too much. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I had some buddies on the road when I was doing security for the Trump campaign, believe it or not. They were, professional wrestlers and pro bodybuilders. And some of them, didn't have a prescription. So they had a bottle of that. And they actually said that it was pretty good to take even before, like, working at the rallies, because it just took the anxiety down a little bit. But I was always scared of the opioids, My wife's in pharmacological investigation master's program right now at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Same place where Amon actually got his doctorate or his PhD. And that's the opioid it's huge right now. It really is. But everything's looking really good in that department, actually. As far as the stuff to come, it's just, how slow they are.
Yeah.
Unless there's something that they can really super control, and make a lot of money off of in a very lucrative way, it doesn't usually get fast-tracked very much. It usually takes forever before, you know, we used to operate with ketamine when I worked at a primate facility. And don't let me birdwalker conversation too much, but that was like the first time I had heard of sort of an synthetic entheogen being used as a, you know, and I was like 19. And I'm like, what the hell? We're using ketamine. It's Special K, the stuff, the horse tranquilizer stuff, the elephant.
I've never done it, but I've heard about it,
I was like, I thought that was a tranquilizer, and everyone's like, no, it's like got entheogenic qualities to it. I'm like, what? I didn't even know this was a long time ago, but I was like, holy crap, I didn't know that. You know,
but that's still something that I have no desire to do. The only things that I haven't done that I really want to do is I want to do peyote. I want to do actual ayahuasca. And what I currently do is I smoke weed, I do mushrooms, and I do DMT. But the shrooms and DMT are a couple of times a year type deal. The smoking weed is more of an everyday thing, but I really got to quit smoking it because after I've been smoking since I was 13, I'm almost 40, so it's really fucking my lungs up. I can tell because I've quit smoking weed a couple times, man, and every time I quit smoking weed, I start losing weight, I start working out, I start eating right, I start feeling better about myself. The best I've ever felt in my life was right before I turned 30. I was 270 pounds. My fat rolls were starting to grow little fat rolls on them. I'm like, hell no, dude, I got to do something about this. So I just started pretty much starving myself. I wasn't really eating right. I was starving myself, and I was jogging mad miles. But I dropped 70 pounds in 7 months. You know, I got down to 205.
And when I say mad miles, it would be, I mean, I started off slow, but I worked up to doing at least 6 miles every time I went, but sometimes I'd go for long distance, and the longest I ever went for was I was jogging for 3 hours straight, and I got 17 miles. I was going for 18 miles, but there was something in my knee that started to feel weird, and I didn't want to hurt myself, so I said 17 is good enough.
For the first time in my life, I had a little six-pack starting to pop up, and I felt really fucking good about myself, and then I started smoking weed again, and there went that.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of guys that they'll have it just for the moment, if you know what I mean. When they're doing what the Romans do. So like,
man, when you're raised up as a kid smoking weed, that's a whole different story. You know, it's a lot harder to drop. But I mean, it's still the same. You just got to make the decision and follow through with it. So it's the same process for anyone to start or stop anything.
If they're a bodybuilder competitor, they're doing it while they're getting through these shows and stuff. And then, you know, guys, a lot of my friends, at least, just because they're all kind of typecast being an Army guy and a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Before all my friends were Army guys and bodybuilders, you know, until the entheogen conversation became a bigger part of my life. After having an experience, a couple of them, and then a year of doing that all the time. And then, like now, never needing them because you kind of become the medicine in a way.
Well, it does its job, you know?
Yeah, it does its job. It's like you don't need 7 gram, you know, unicorns anymore. You're good. You can just like 1 gram even now for someone who's real experienced. You know how.
Well, see now microdosing, man. Is awesome. See, with microdosing, you don't trip. Like a lot of people think that you trip. You don't even trip off a microdose. It'll give you some energy. Actually, mushrooms. What are they called? The active ingredient mushrooms again? What's that?
Psilocybin and psilocin.
Yeah. Psilocybin and psilocin. That's the only known compound that has been proven to regrow brain cells. And what that's doing is that's making new connections in your mind. And when you microdose. Yeah, neural pathways. Yeah, it's the only thing proven to build neural pathways. That's why there's companies right now trying to synthesize the active ingredients in there.
The psilocybin. I think they were. Even though, like, I know lion's mane gives me like, man, my heart will just start beating like I had a bunch of caffeine almost. Yeah, but it
I
also
haven't tried no lion's mane yet. I'd like to.
Neuroregenerative to a degree, I believe.
Yeah, lion mane is really good for your mental health.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like the mushroom department seems to be what really helps the whole neural pathway concept with the brain. But then I believe reishi and shiitake and cordyceps. So what I did one time was, after having copious amounts for a year and a half or so, I had this one particular ceremony where I wanted to kind of be a little bit smarter, but not risky, obviously, right? So
Yeah.
the game plan was taking 3.5 grams, which is that's the beginning of the bigger doses to some, it's a lot. What we did was we told the individual, let's do 2 grams now, like 90 days ago, if you will.
Yeah.
Just have kind of a cool day watching movies, get the feel for it.
Yeah.
See what it does. All right. And then let's wait 90 days. And I want you to do everything to make your life better in the next 3 months. Taking more shifts at work, working out more, all the things you're supposed to do to make your life better, period, without the entheogens. So we did that, right? And even myself, just playing around with the individual.
I like that.
And so, let's hustle this, bro, And so we do 3.5 with a multi-mushroom cap from Thailand. So it was a Thai brand of shrooms. Reishi, cordyceps, shiitake, all the ones that are good for all the things,
Yeah.
So we took a recommended serving of that with the 3.5, with the lemon juice, the whole thing,
Yeah.
and had probably one of the best experiences I had ever had. Just because it was all planned right, the intention was there.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big part of it.
The need for it, So that's one thing I want to make sure the audience knows, is that, we're not doctors at all. And any ideas you get from us.
All right. I just let that go because that was on Witch Doctor's channel. But we in Dane's world right now, motherfuckers. And I would like to let y'all know that I identify as a doctor, okay? So Witch Doctor might not be a real doctor, but I sure as fuck am, goddammit. Come let me operate on you. I identify as a doctor. Let's go.
Obviously, all the fair medical disclaimers need to be applied. We're just talking about our own experiences. We don't condone experiences with teens or giving them to your kids. We're telling our own personal stories. That's outside the.
Hey, I did gloss over something which I wanted to touch on the drug subject before we go to the next one, which was I don't know, when I was about 16, I was with this girl. I was crazy in love with her, and her brother was shooting shit up, opiates and stuff. And for about a year, I did shoot shit up a little, just a couple times, but I mean, a couple's enough. But just that, I just didn't want to gloss over that. Like I did shoot up opiates. Actually, there's this one time I shot up fucking a coke first, and then opiates right behind it, a speedball, as one might call it. And I'm just saying, that's how I know I will never ever do that shit again. That's how I know. Sometimes you got to do something to know you'll never do it again.
A lot of people in the bodybuilding world, you will hear some pros talking about taking those pills that way because of the liver damage that you're trying to avoid. So for the average person that isn't really exposed to this kind of conversation in the bodybuilding world, instead of taking a bunch of steroid pills, you're better off taking the intramuscular stuff. It's literally healthier for you.
Yeah.
Blood work will show the difference. Your liver is
okay.
Through the roof. Oh yeah. So it's I hate to say this, but in a Breaking Bad sort of situation, you're actually taking the healthier route when you utilize it without it being ingested first.
Without it going through your damn liver.
Well, that's the whole conversation around our Jesus talks about his magic wands and the different, magical juice concoctions that were being rubbed in different places for different things, whether it be ceremonial oil or if it actually have entheogens in it, whatever. But the whole how you absorb something, there's other medicinal reasons why things are done that way. And you'll hear about bodybuilders that take things that way. Not only are they taking them without the prescription, but they're also crushing them up and turning them into a different kind of thing.
Okay.
And so it's a lot more common than people realize, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on so you could talk about it. Because as much as people might think that, oh my gosh, how could anybody ever get into a situation like that? It's really common. And just your next door neighbor might be dealing with the same issue that maybe you had dealt with before, but you never know because they live in a freaking little neighborhood, or something like, you know what I'm saying? But if it's not that, you'll have these soccer moms that are just blitzed on 6 different prescriptions all day long because their doctor just hooks them up. It just what.
Man, witch doctor's he's just a smooth talker, man. He's got no problem with talking, and I mean that in a good way. Like, actually, witch doctor is the first one out of the whole Gnostic scene that even popped up on my feed, and I'm not super big into all the Gnostic stuff, like, because they're big into going through all the ancient manuscripts and trying to prove this or that. That ain't really my bag, but I just like I just like his vibe, and yeah, that's when I started hitting witch doctor up. I'm like, yo man, try to get me on the show or something sometime. Let's go.
Whatever they want. Yeah, they're falling over at soccer practice.
Can I point out real quick that for thousands and thousands of years, pharmacology was based on natural plants. And now all of a sudden, pharmacology is strictly chemicals. Okay, so now chemicals are considered drugs and natural, or chemicals are considered medicine and natural plants are considered drugs. There's something fucked up going on there. And what is that? That's because you can grow plants in your backyard and grow your own medicine. And that directly interferes with the profits of the pharmaceutical companies. And I'm just asking, who gave the pharmaceutical companies the right to dictate our health is what I'm asking. And the answer to that question is the people, but our perception about it has been manipulated. And that's something that the people have to pay attention to.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to probably just sprinkle on our episode today was some of the really badass movies I've watched in the last 72 hours. I don't know what it is about this new Fire Stick I bought, but it is making the best recommendations on Amazon Prime. And so after watching this really cool movie the other day, Blink Twice, I watched another movie called Vivarium. Really cool symbology there. And then another one called Synchronic.
Yep, I've seen that one.
Fake ayahuasca. Interesting, really interesting stuff for sure. And then I also, just like you were saying, in addition to those movies, I watched that Borat lockdown movie. And so what they did with this particular movie was they made it a Borat movie, but they also made it a movie to sort of, like you were saying, how science or the media, a lot of things are manipulated with money. So they'll really strong arm certain aspects of different things, and they'll use really passive ways of doing it, and so that movie Borat, the lockdown special, definitely everybody check it out if you haven't. It's funny. Just watch it. 'Cause now that it's so many years behind us, it's kind of funny to watch it. But definitely everybody check out Vivarium if you haven't. That's a really, really good movie. But Synchronic, I think, would be one of the more enjoyable ones too for everybody. Because a lot of people here, since we're talking about different addictions and different things that we've dealt with as far as addictions and ways to get over it.
I've been living off grid with no electric for, I don't even know, man, at least 8 years. Yeah, at least 8 years. And so I haven't really it's been hard to keep up on movies and shows and stuff. It's been pretty hard with all that, so I haven't been watching all the movies and shows that I used to.
Which is what we're talking about next, is what are some of the ways that you got over it. What were some of the different things that you did to cut out some of that stuff? Like, you said you lost a bunch of weight once and were working out like crazy.
A couple times, and every time I quit smoking weed, after about a month of quitting smoking weed, it takes.
He keeps doing it. Well, that's a common thing, though. If someone's going on a rant, that's a common thing. But it's just a personal thing for me. It's fucking me up, man. Because I'll start thinking I'm in Dane's world and start saying some extra crazy shit. And I don't want to get anyone in trouble on their channel. I can get my channel in trouble all I want, but try to be more respectful on other people's channels.
about a month just to quit wanting it. But after that month, I started getting bored and looking around, and I'm like, well, what now? Well, let's start eating right. Let's start working out, man.
Yeah, that's always hard to do. Even for guys that work out, if you get out of the habit and you stop going for whatever reason, getting it going definitely can help for sure. It doesn't really do the same things that, the things we're doing. But I think if you work at it every day, you keep going back or just accomplishing goals with that, it can definitely help for sure. The problem I've always had, like back in the day, to having such a high caffeine addiction. Like there's, especially in the bodybuilding world, like, we'll take a Bang in the morning, which is 300 milligrams, Bang energy drink.
Yeah.
And then we'll take another one like later on in the day.
Now, when he first said that, I thought he meant a boost bang. It's a whole different kind of bang.
Before a workout.
Well, thanks for clarifying, because I didn't know if that was like slang for something. Oh, okay, yeah, I like the bangs. Bangs are good.
Bang 3 times a day. Oh man, no. But I have seen some funny jokes around that drink for sure because of that. I tell you what, man, those guys at the freaking Arnold, which the Arnold's coming up soon. Not that anybody cares, but they used to have the biggest freaking thing, and I think they got sued for not having the aminos and the creatine in there that they said that they do. But
oh wow,
so caffeine's been a big thing for me. Caffeine's like coffee. I got coffee right here. That's the lesser of the evils, right? But these energy drinks, there was a time. Remember back before energy drinks, Red Bull was like the first one, right?
Oh yeah.
And then we saw these Rippets in the gas stations, and then like Monster. And then all Full Throttle and all these other ones started shooting up. And it's like, wow, if people really realize just how addictive caffeine is and just how much it sucks to get rid of it when you've had it your whole life, they would never even take them. But the amount of caffeine, even before a workout, you don't want to take more than like 100 milligrams just because, not that you're going to have that much of a stenosis of the arteries and veins and blood vessels and stuff, but a narrowing effect that you get from diuretics, but it's not so much that, it's so much that you can I kind of fight or flight if I have too much caffeine. But it's like the one thing you're allowed to have in the military. So people will drink 2 4-packs of Monsters and have like their liver give out. 20 years in the army, live on Monsters and beef jerky.
When I first started watching you, I didn't know how swole you are because you're always wearing jackets and long sleeve shirts and shit. But then after I started watching you a little bit, I started seeing them guns. I'm like, God damn.
I'm trying to do another show this year.
Fuck yeah.
But what I got to do is I got to get off the damn caffeine for like
I got to get off the weed.
That was hard. But what you can do is if you're in Arkansas, so obviously, is it a green state or is it medical?
I mean, effectively, it's easy because people ain't going to give it to you for free. All you got to do is quit paying for it. All you got to do is quit paying for it. That's how you quit doing anything because people ain't going to just give it to you.
No, but I'm close enough. I usually go up to Branson, Missouri and get my weed and come back.
So,
supposedly, allegedly.
Do the gas stations sell the fake stuff?
They used to here in Arkansas, but they outlawed that about a year ago, and that's when I started going to Branson.
So the fake ones.
Even the fake, the Delta. The Delta. They outlawed that here.
That could be a good way for someone that's trying to cut, having some strong flour every day. If you're trying to just downgrade.
Well, I did try it for a year. I was smoking the Deltas for a year, and I can tell you all about the Deltas. It ain't the same thing. On the Deltas, like I kept literally when I'm driving, I kept forgetting where the fuck I was, to the extent to where I kind of started freaking out. Not only did I forget like what road I was on, what state I was on, I'm like, what fucking planet am I on, bro? I'm like, all right, chill out, just keep driving. You'll see something you recognize, and then I drive and I see something I recognize. All right, I know where I'm at. 5 minutes later, I'm like, where the fuck am I? but that was like strictly a Delta 9 thing, dude. Yeah, that shit fucked me up.
Well, my mom, who's the anthropology girl, she says that it's been, and I used to grow autoflowers and other all the regular kind.
Okay.
Yeah. Autoflowers are kind of. So here's the thing: if you're new.
Ooh, I missed out a good story right here because I used to grow too down in Florida. And actually, when I moved to Arkansas from Florida back in 2010, I had a U-Haul, right? And the very first thing I packed in my U-Haul was a big old metal shelf, one of them big metal shelf things, and it was slam packed full of clones. I had about 200 weed clones with me because my mom and stepdad at the time had a grow room already set up in Arkansas, all set up and ready to go. They were growing, so I was gonna show up and throw all my clones in there and get some crops growing right off the bat. And I got pulled over in Georgia, somewhere out in the country, and the only thing that stopped the cop from searching me and finding all my clones was I had 2 dogs with me, and he didn't want to pull the dogs out and get a canine unit out there and shit, but he was really close to wanting to search me, and I had it in my head like if he searched me, because I wasn't about to lose my whole life over that, because that's back when the laws were a lot more strict and shit, and I had it in my head, dude, and I was serious. Had he searched me, I was about to jump out in front of a semi. Because we were right there on the highway, there were semis going by. I'm like, man, I don't want to have to jump out in front of a semi right now, but I'm going to have to if he searches me. And that's just what was going through my head. And luckily, he did not search me. My dog, that's one of the legit times my dog saved my life right there. So that's a fun little weed story.
To growing, autoflowers are pretty forgiving as long as you don't overwater that shit. Yeah. And you can mess up the lighting schedule and everything, and it'll still do its thing. It's just an autoflower.
With the autoflowers, you got to be really picky about the strain you get, just to make sure you got a high THC count, because they usually have a lower THC count. It's the only thing with the autoflowers.
So I think if somebody were to grow autoflowers, you would only have so high of a THC. But I did grow some Girl Scout cookies that had everybody at the jiu-jitsu school just like, yo, this stuff is hot.
But you can still do the extracts. You can still make the extract. And while I'm talking about that, okay, when my mom got cancer, it was squamous cell cancer. She said she had a cold sore in her mouth. Okay, a year later, she's like, man, that cold sore is still in my mouth. A year later, she's like, man, that cold sore won't go away. I'm like, Mom, that's probably not a fucking cold sore. You might want to go to the damn doctor. About a couple more years go by, and all of a sudden, that cold sore starts blowing up in her face. And it wasn't a cold sore, it was cancer, dude. And so she waited to the last minute to do anything about it. But kind of like as a Hail Mary pass, I went out and I got me a 1/4 pound of weed, and I made up cannabis oil. Okay, you can look up online how to do it. Super easy. But check this out. Okay, this is a real life testimony. Within 3 days of putting it on her face was rotting off, dude. Her face, she looked like she could be a part of The Walking Dead as a zombie. Seriously, her face was rotting off. No, seriously, yeah, you don't ever want to watch your mom's face rot off. That shit's fucked up, bro.
No, my mom's everything to me, dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. She was to me too. But so anyway, after 3 days of eating it, she was eating it, and I was wiping it on her all of her sores. Within 3 days, this weird white film popped up, and I wiped it off, and it stopped the fucking growth in its tracks, dude. That shit works.
I've heard of it doing great stuff, man. Dr. Rhonda Patrick talks about, and she's great for people that are pregnant. She had a baby herself, and she was, Miss Salmon, Eggs, and Avocados every day, But she even sells salmon eggs. Like, she has a link on her stuff. And real quick, backwards, this is Dane Dark Light, the darkest night.
I'm the brightest light, I'm the darkest light, and I am ascending. The dark light is upon you. Step into Dane's world.
In my head, I just kind of call you Batman because I always think Dark Knight, So that's cool, right? Especially the Christopher Nolan ones, man. Those were the shit.
And real quick, also for the chat, in case no one knows me, I'm a non-Abrahamic true monotheist. I do believe in the construct of the one true creator, but I do not believe that the Abrahamic perception is accurate. But while I say that, I am most familiar with the Christian perception. So I am absolutely, I all day long, I do nothing but study. I go into Jewish rooms. I go into Muslim rooms. I go into Christian rooms, Gnostic rooms. I'm just compelled. Like sometimes I don't even want to do it, but I can't help it. I just like, I got to get up in there and learn some shit, you know. So, but
knowing more about it.
Oh yeah, that is an addiction. Theology and religion to me is and that kind of segues into one of our next points, which is the positive aspects of addiction, because it kind of like going with what you were saying is a good way to combat negative addictions is you combat them with positive addictions, you know, and that's like one of the things I did when I dropped weight is, you know, I stopped smoking weed, but then I replaced that addiction with the addiction of eating right, with the addiction of working out, and there are positive addictions. So I think, you know, looking at it like I have to totally eradicate addiction is the wrong way. You have to understand and utilize the power of addiction and make that work for you instead of against you.
It's like use that same energy and fuel it towards something that is proactive.
Yeah. It's something that betters your life instead of something that hinders your life, you know, because, and I think what that all comes down to is your self-perception. And that kind of goes back to, you know, our childhood trauma thing, you know, that's on the itinerary too. But I think your childhood trauma is a direct path to, you know, the addictions in your life, the profession that you go into, your spirituality or lack thereof. You know, your childhood traumas cause all that.
Yeah, you know, I've talked about this on the show. I've had since we are segueing into the childhood trauma aspect of, you know, people using entheogens for health. We've all seen ayahuasca ceremonies on YouTube. I watched one of the first ones that I really loved was this white boy from America went down to South America and made friends with enough of the shamans to where he developed his own therapy school, kind of, where you go down there and they interviewed everybody. They had lost friends in car accidents, or they had had some sexual issues, some, you know,
one way or another.
I don't know what words to use and not make YouTube click us offline, but
you know, there's all kinds of sexual issues.
Yeah, tons of stuff. And one guy looked like he was just a rock and roller his whole life. And they did the full-blown shit tea and, you know, blew the black tobacco in all the containers and vessels. And I lived in Panama for 3 years. So anything that has to do with South America and the Amazon, you know, I have a special place in my heart for that just in general. To where when I saw God the first time, it was actually like an African / South American looking lady with a snake theme. It was
you know what's interesting about that is Africa and South America used to be attached, you know, so there is like an actual link there.
And they've come over before. The history books will tell you, if you look at some of the tribes down there, there's too much Afro genetics in them for it to be the forest
totally isolated. In order for it to be totally isolated,
the Native Americans have the evolved, you know, Forrest Gump route where they went all the way around the world, right?
Yeah.
But there's like the Lumbee Indians and some South American tribes. There's too much Afro genetics. And I personally believe, my mom thinks the same thing too, because they did some insane shit with the oceans back then. They did some ballsy stuff that you could not get snowflake. You couldn't even get badasses today to do some of the stuff.
They were desperate.
The most fierce, bloodthirsty Rambo, you know, on all the steroids and everything, with a death wish, still won't. That ain't going to be his ending. You know.
I'm going to die some other way, not like that.
Bro, that'd be tough, bro. But that's my ancestors. They had a lot of Navy and a lot of stuff like that, Army guys and whatnot. The whole Vikings, you know, that they did some insane crap and came over to even where Marcel lives. There's an establishment there, you know, and that was way before Columbus. So I totally think that if you watch the documentary Kon-Tiki, there's two. There's an old one that's in black and white of the original mission, and then there's a newer one that was done with some Swedish and Danish dudes, where it's in color and it's nice. It's, you know, post 2000 somethings. You know, it's pretty good. And even the old documentary is great, but it was these white boys from Sweden and Norway came down, these Viking descendants, they came down to do a project where they even tested out stuff for the U.S. military and whatnot, but they went from South America to the Polynesian Islands using nothing but a raft built off of...
Damn.
Yeah, these boys were eating fish straight out the ocean. I'm talking savage Gollum style, just just that's a badass right there, and that's all of our granddads, Before we
I definitely got some. I definitely got some Neanderthal in me. Look, my forehead says so.
Is that the bigger brow line? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I have a handful of that for sure, but I think people can look at me and tell that I'm as far Western European as they go, pretty much. Irish and Scottish and British. There might be some stuff from the inland, but I'm not that dark, My hair ain't like Italian dude dark or nothing like that, so most of my genetics are right there in the frickin' channel, and that's, I'm cool with that. I like that. I like the movies that they do, the, Braveheart, Highlander. That's all my dudes, right? So I'm cool with that. Everybody wants to be something really cool, and they kind of downplay the whole, their own stuff. And it's like when you see white girls trying to act like other races, and it's like, come on now, just embrace yourself, embrace your own,
Well, check it out though. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you're living in a community with a certain culture, you're going to adopt that. And I say that because down in Florida is a state. But Florida's a state full of wiggers, dude. And I'm talking about some white people that really think they're black. No, I'm serious. They ain't even joking. Yeah. They ain't joking, dude. They ain't joking. They ain't playing. That's a culture thing. That's not a color thing. A 24%, 25%. Sorry, I don't know why I said 24. I've been doing math for like a week now. Like my semester started, so I've been in math 150 every day doing. 25% of my friends growing up were Slim Shady types. Yep. That was the guy at the time who was kind of that symbol for dudes that dress like that and all that, Yep. So everybody and ICP back then it was like ICP. That was the only alternative rap back then.
Freaking everyone dyed their hair blonde and had big white shirts and jinkos, like
Well, me personally, I was in I was more on the goth side. I'd paint my fingernails black. I'd be spiking my hair.
That's what the musicians. Yeah, and most of the musicians are goth type dudes, and if they're not musicians, the goth type dudes were really big into music altogether. Obviously, to have the theme and stuff. It's kind of funny to have our own. So, like when we were growing up in the '90s, we looked back at the '80s and the '70s and the '60s for their themes and stuff. And now that we've lived through these other ones, it's funny that like my daughter watches videos of dudes who are emo. Because I'm like, hey, that's from when I was in high school. Dudes with the black
the emo shit wasn't really out. Well, we didn't call it emo, though. The emo word, when I was in high school, the emo word wasn't even heard of. You were just called goth. If you were any kind of alternative, they just called you goth, where I was at down in Florida. But right after I got out of high school, that's when all that emo and all these different terminologies came around.
My town was a little behind everywhere else, I feel, because like when I moved out there, I was in 8th grade, right? We were a military family, and then we wound up in Virginia and in Somerville, South Carolina, where I went to the School of the Arts. So I came from this really privileged. I had a really awesome childhood, I'm not going to lie. But there was no drugs or anything. It was straight laced as could be, except for like in high school, there was some drinking. And working at the feed store, we all dipped and shit, because we all rednecks by that point,
Yeah.
And so, this is literally the jacket I wore at that feed store in high school every day. This is literally, I've had this my whole life, man. And I'm wearing this because everybody was like, well, I did not everybody, but I had some people talk about like, the robe is weird. And I was like, all right, I'll wear regular clothes and be boring. Watch.
Like, I love the robe, dude. What are you talking about? I love the robe, dude. You're like, I'm just chilling, motherfucker. You look so comfortable.
I have nemesis, right? Like they're all constructs, but I have the foes of the witch doctor, and they seek to take me down. They've said things like the robe is weird, like I'm a what's that Harvey Weinstein vibes. I'm like, I can't. They didn't say that, but in my head, I know that's what they mean, and I'm like, I see what you're saying. I'm not naked under the robe though, so that's the only difference. I don't answer my hotel room with the robe open.
If they're undressing you with their eyes in your robe, that's on them, not on you.
All right, so real quick, we do have a question from the audience. How old are you? And then I'll go.
I am actually almost 40. I'm almost 40. I'm 39. I'll be 40 in the end of April.
So in my head, I think of like my brother's graduating class. He is almost 40 or is 40. He was 2003 when he graduated.
Yeah, I was 2004.
Would have graduated. What year were you? 02?
I think I was 04.
04? Okay, yeah. So I was 05. So we're right around the same window of life where the radio had all the same songs.
Oh, yeah.
TV was the same. Some people think I'm like in my 40s and some think I'm in my like younger 30s. I'm 37.
I can pass for 30, or, early 30s. I don't look as old as I am. I see people my age all the time and they always look way older than me.
My wife is pregnant. And so she actually looks kind of younger right now. And everyone's like, oh, you're like 24. She's like, yeah, no.
I'll take it.
Who have no loose shoes?
I make people guess my age all the time because they always guess younger.
Well, it's funny. I watch different
Makes me feel good.
And I was watching Prime. They have The Price is Right from like 1982. And it's so cool seeing these brand new Mustangs, and they're like the 82 Fox body Mustangs and stuff, like on The Price is Right. But I noticed that the Bob character, he doesn't have any gray hairs. I'm like, does he dye his hair? Because I have so many freaking grays, dude. So I feel like I look older because of all of that, all of this. And if I have longer hair, it all covers it up, so you can't see it.
Yeah. I'm just now starting to get gray, but also my hair started thinning out on me, so I shaved that shit. And I always promise myself, whenever I have to shave my hair off, at that point, I'm going to be tattooing my head. So I got my face planned out. I'm going to be getting a Celtic blue, a face tat. It's going to go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 on both sides. And then I got to, I'm going to have my face blasted out, bro. I planned that for years, and I just haven't had the money for it. But yeah, I'm going to have a war paint, Celtic blue war paint on my face tatted. Is the plan.
The head, I see people do that where their hairlines are. They do everything.
Yeah, I'm going to do my whole head.
I think that's kind of, who's it, Old Boy? He does that. He's got that on the side. And with his hair long, you can't see it. It's kind of cool, because you can look completely different by putting your hair up. You know what I mean? That's really cool. It's really cool.
And people tell me not to do my face, but it's totally going to happen.
Well, I had
and the way I put it is I don't want to have sorry.
No, you're good. You didn't want to do what?
I just want to say I don't want to die without having my war paint on my face, And I never know when I'm going to die, so I got to get my face done because I got to have my war paint ready for when I die.
You live off grid, you were saying.
Yeah, I've been off grid with no electric ever since my mom died, pretty much. Because I was hanging out taking care of her, of course, for a year while I was paying on my property that I had. And as soon as she died, like the next day, I started packing up and moving my property. And it's been 8 or 9 years now. I've had no electric. And the idea was to be off grid with electric, but I just haven't got there yet. And I'm just a hard-headed motherfucker. And I'm like, well, necessity is the mother of invention. So I guess I don't need it bad enough yet if I don't have it yet,
Right. Well, so we were talking about childhood traumas and stuff. And I talked about I had a very privileged childhood, being a military brat, living in Panama. Even though it was during a war, it was still kind of a privileged opportunity. It's like when you get like maybe a mission to Africa and your parents are missionaries and you have really crappy conditions to have to deal with. We didn't have crappy conditions to deal with living in a house, but the war broke out. And there's always this weird risk that something can happen to y'all,
Oh, fuck yeah.
My mom had to combat crawl to the fridge and get milk and stuff. And we were living in a water heater closet with the mattress over our heads. And I always wondered that, and moving every 3 years, completely uprooting yourself. And before there was even a way to keep in contact with like Facebook Messenger, and you can't call long distance back in the day and just talk to people and not.
Real quick, I would like to point out and acknowledge that I need to watch Talking Over People. And it's funny that I paused Witch Doctor to say that. I should have paused me to say that. But yeah, I need to... Well, I'm so excited, and I got something on my mind, and I got to say it before I forget it, because I'll forget it. But yeah, I definitely need to work on that so that there's a fair conversation flow. But hey, I'm a virgin, guys. I'm new at this. I'll get better.
Piss your parents off. So whenever we would move, it became this big operation to keep your old friends. And then next thing you know, your new friends in your new town take over. And then even those guys aren't going to want to hang out with you in 15 years because you realize that you were friends in high school for one or two unifying reasons, but your personalities were all very different. So you realize when you're 35 or 37 like me, like when I go home to Walterboro, there's a good chance that all of the friends that I used to hang out with, even being home for the holidays, only certain people are going to get an actual invitation or visit from each other. And it's who hasn't annoyed the shit out of somebody else, or which friend hasn't screwed somebody else over and stuff. So I can definitely see the reason why people, even in a small town where life is simple, can want to live off grid. What have you noticed about yourself living off grid? Do you think it's helped you develop a sense of solitude and like independence living off grid? Do you wish that
the solitude and the independence was actually the goal. It wasn't. I mean, it's something you grow into, but that was like the whole point and reason. You know, I was raised up in fucking ghettos, dude, big cities ghettos. Homestead, Florida, which is right south of Miami, which honestly it looks like one big run-on city. It just looks like a suburb of Miami. Lived in Topeka, Kansas, in the straight up hood for a few years. And I just got tired of the cities, and I wanted to. Okay, check it out. When I was not 13. When I was like, because I wasn't even 13 yet. When I was like 11 or something, I stole my mom's rent money, and I went to run away to go out to the woods, and I didn't make it. I got caught and brought back, but you know that just shows you where my heart was at. I always wanted to get out to the woods ever since I was a little kid, and I finally made it there.
Do you wish that you hadn't gotten into living tell me how it's been living off grid and some of the struggles that you deal with?
Well, what I've learned about myself is, and that's something I've learned about all of society, is you don't need electric nearly as much as you think you do. Is what I learned about that.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Every time you put me on by myself, it freezes me up, man. But
oh, I didn't even know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just been too fucking broke because I was supposed to be off grid with electric, and I just ain't got there yet.
Solar panels are interesting. I have some on my house, and I know a guy online. You might follow him. His name is Ken Wheeler.
Okay, no.
Theoria Apophysis. He has a show where I've featured him a couple of times on the episodes, just a screenshot of his show. He's a bald guy with tattoos who is also a Greek translator, kind of like the Lady Babylon, Dr. Hillman. And so we were trying in the beginning when everybody was starting to hear about who he was. And I know that you're in the chat on that channel in the live streams. We've seen you there and stuff.
I'm on.
Yeah,
a couple of times. I just went there to see why he's so famous, and I still don't get it. I still don't get why he's so famous. He's kind of entertaining, but
he's the something to talk about right now. He's kind of like the Trump of the Gnostic world because he's there. He's given all the news channels things to talk about, and it's the stuff that he says. So even though he hates Trump, and I used to work for Trump's campaign doing security and shit on the road. And all the congressmen for years. I did that crap. And what I can say is this: me and him don't agree politically, and neither does. I'm very in the middle, like libertarian and stuff. But neither does Ken Wheeler. He said the same thing. Ken Wheeler has a show where he talks about the metaphysical hierarchy or metaphysics, and that's something we're going to talk to today when we move into the Gnostic questionnaire in a sec.
Yeah.
But Ken Wheeler, he's a Greek translator that actually agreed with some of the translations of the age ranges and stuff. And so he kind of got the attention of guys that were in that channel. But I think that's the only real reason he's famous is because he's given people stuff to criticize, kind of like my own channel. I'm now starting to get criticized by numerous channels.
Now, don't get me wrong, he's entertaining. Amon's entertaining, don't get me wrong. You can tell he's educated.
Well, he's got a lot of episodes now, so at this point, he's been going live a lot. I almost thought he could slow down since he's not monetized, but he might really get a lot more followers from going live so much. The shame is that, and this is why I took down a lot of episodes that even I had. At a certain point, we're kind of repetitive, and no one's going to scroll through all those hours of videos and stuff. So you got to redo them because people don't go back and watch your old stuff anyway. So I was like, well, I don't care about making my channel's monetized, but it's not aggressively monetized at all. This, as far as I know, is not monetized while we're streaming. It should just be off. Yeah. And so I took down all these repetitive shorts that didn't need to have. There was like 2 or 3 of the same ones. And so those all counted as videos. So my page just went from like 200 down to like 58 videos. Completely.
Yeah, I saw that. I noticed.
And what's great about that is that even though I accidentally erased 2 of the interviews that I was going to keep up, they were with Tiger Shark and Chase, the movie director. I was like, shit. I didn't notice because I didn't have a special thumbnail on them.
Oh, okay.
But the other interviews with Chase and Mandy Moorhall had their own special thumbnails. Yeah. So when I was deleting, I was just like, I deleted like, oh my God, bro. Well, you saw the math, 220 down to 58, you know?
Oh yeah.
I was just getting delete happy, delete. And I was like, oh crap, I deleted something I wanted to keep. So now we're going to have way more interviews, right? And so I'm really glad that you came on the show and you talked a little bit about the childhood trauma.
No, we didn't get there yet. I got some trauma, man. I mean, I know there's people out there with worse lives than me, but no, like
more about that.
My very first memory in life was my dad beating the fuck out of my mom, bloodying her face up, smashing her face in the mirror, saying, "Go look in the fucking mirror." Me and my brother were cuddled in a corner, hugging each other, just hoping our dad didn't see us. That was my very first memory in life right there, and my mom didn't stay with my dad too much longer after that, but every single guy she ever got with was always an abusive alcoholic. And you know, she did a lot better when she finally smartened up and just stayed single. But that was only when I was older in life. My whole child.
I don't think I get into too much more of it on this, so I will cover a couple things real quick. My brother almost shot my head off with the shotgun. And not like accidentally. We had a BB gun, and my brother shot me with the BB gun. He thinking it was funny, and I'm like, "Hey man, what the fuck? That hurts." And I don't know. He was like 10 to 15 feet away from me when he shot me. He's like, "Oh, all right, man. Well, you can shoot me back." He gives me the gun, and I shoot him back. And then he gets really mad that I shot him back. Even though he just told me to and he just gave me the fucking gun. But the reason being was because I was closer when I shot him. I was like... because I was only a couple feet away from him when I shot him. So he goes and grabs the single load shotgun and points it right at my head and strongly considered shooting my head off. And I could see it in his eyes, man. And he just kind of moved the barrel a little bit and pulled the trigger and shot it off right next to my head instead of shooting my head off. So, I mean, that was one thing. What? I know there was more stuff. Must have been more bad stuff than that.
Sure. She was always with abusive alcoholics.
Right. Just that style of boyfriend, I guess, you know.
Yeah, it was like the same person, but in different bodies, kind of.
Oh, and speaking of which, another one of her boyfriends almost stabbed the fuck out of my mom one night. I stopped him from stabbing her. I was a little kid. I don't know. I was maybe 7 or 8 or something. I was a little kid. And my mom always dated abusive alcoholics, and she was with this guy this one night. And they were fighting, like, he would beat her up all the damn time, but this one night they were fighting, and he was like, "Bitch, I'm gonna fucking kill you," and I heard him grab a knife, and I was in the other room, and I come running out, and I'm like, "Don't kill my mom." I mean, I didn't cuss, but I was like, "Don't kill my mommy," you know, like a bitch-ass little kid, but just trying to make sure my mom didn't die, because she was about to, and Yeah. I don't. If I can only, really recall of a couple things, and I guess it ain't so bad. I'm sure plenty of people had it worse, but um, I'm sure there's also a lot of people out there that didn't have to stop their mom from getting stabbed and didn't almost have their head shot off and whatnot. But there's people with worse lives and there's people with better lives. It is what it is, but definitely some childhood trauma for you right there.
It's like she had a type. Let's just put it that way.
My friends that were bodybuilders, some of them have talked about it, more so on their YouTubes and not to me, but they've talked about having childhoods that were, like Rich Piana, for example, which I don't know him personally, but he knows who I am because he sent me a box of freaking crap.
I watch Rich.
Yeah, it's a cool dude, and he, a lot to say there, but he talked about having a mom who had different boyfriends all the time. Different bodybuilder type boyfriends. And, I've heard of some horror stories of bodybuilder dudes losing their shit and being abusive. I know that's got to be traumatic. The only thing traumatic in regards to my dad versus my mom growing up was, and it wasn't even that bad. Like I said, I had a good childhood. My dad's a really good dad. He tried hard. His dad left him when he was 4. So he wasn't going to do that to us. They did get divorced in high school, and I don't think anybody enjoyed that. But
so to be clear, in the last handful of years, my dad's been great. He quit drinking and stuff, but he was an abusive alcoholic in my younger life. But he's been great. He finally put the bottle down pretty much. And he was always great when he was sober. But as soon as he started drinking, it was a Jekyll and Hyde thing, and that runs on both sides of my family. Me personally, from 15 to 25, I didn't drink at all just because I did not want to end up.
So to clarify, why I say from 15 to 25 instead of I didn't drink till I was 25 was I got wasted a couple times when I was like 14 and 15. And I mean just a couple times. I never liked the taste. And I didn't like being drunk. And I still don't like being drunk. If I ever drink now, it's just a little bit. I just get a little buzz for an hour or two, and then I'm good.
Like that. But once I realized that I don't like alcohol like that, whenever I drink, I just,
Shit, it's probably been a year. It's probably been a year since I drank anything at this point.
Take a couple shots. I feel it for a couple hours, then I'm good. I quit. But I'm one of the few people in my family that can drink and then put it down without getting blackout drunk.
I had the hardest time with, sorry, I'm messaging Tiger Shark.
Yes, sir.
I bring him on if he's free. He'll kind of help us do the questionnaire too. Today, if you want, email him now. But my dad didn't drink because of his dad. And so the only thing I dealt with was my dad hated being a civilian. And he made good money too. We spent it all on horses. So we still lived the same exact life as a middle-class family that was having a tough time. Because we were paying for horses. We were just broke. So that's why we got our own farm, And so we got to a farm, and now we just did manual labor from 8.
Well, he said Arabian horses earlier. Those ain't the cheap ones. I mean, they do have cheap horses out there, but when he's saying we were broke because of horses, man, horses can get expensive. Horses are big business down there in Florida. There's a bunch of horse farms down there. And horses scare me personally.
7th grade through when I went into the Army. It's just building fences, digging post holes, post holes, And that actually, I think, made us a little bit tougher. And I think it was actually therapeutic.
Well, kids got to work. Kids have to learn that they have to work.
Yeah. And so with my daughter, I had her come out and live with me because we were like, hey, we're going to have miniature goats and stuff so that Dean can learn how to, take care of stuff, feed animals and whatnot. And I have a little one on the way now, little Stephen Ray.
Oh, awesome.
And, I'm so excited, dude. Yeah. And so, Tiger Shark's here. I'm going to bring it in just a second, bro. And so I brought my daughter out here. She's been living with her mom for 10 years in a military family like I was when I was a kid. But see, my dad got off active duty when I was about Campbell's age, so a little younger. So I was like, well, Campbell's been moving around a lot. That's not traumatic, but it caused me, I think, to deal with, how do I say this, being okay with starting over so much.
Yeah.
And that can be destructive for a man when he's in his 20s through his 30s. If he's starting his life over and moving every breakup and putting himself in positions to have to always move.
I went through that too. I used to move around a lot too.
Stupid, living in paying X amount of dollars a month to rent rooms from buddies who had an extra room and were single.
Yeah.
It's fun for them because they're depressed and alone, and it's fun for you because you just had some stupid breakup or something, and oh, I'm all lonely, and everyone acts like that, And so I had a lot of that stupid crap, and if anything, that was more traumatic than even my childhood, was just how rambunctious and unsettled my life was for the longest time.
Yeah.
My recommendation to guys that might be a little too into something that's causing maybe their relationships to not work out. I'm glad to be where I am now. I'm glad it all happened the way it did, because it led me to my wife, and it led me to where I am, and
absolutely.
my kids. And I thought I would never have another kid again. And that's I'm so proud and so happy for everything that we have, and we've been busting our ass to do it. It's definitely worth it. And so there's like that movie I was referring people to watch. What's it called? Hey, let me get Tiger Shark in here real quick.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm gonna stop this right here. It's gonna be a long video. It's gonna take me probably 6 hours just to load this motherfucker. I'm low on data right now, and so thanks for the dark light. If you made it this far, appreciate it. I am the brightest night. I am the darkest light, and I am ascending. Step into Dane's world, y'all. The dark light is upon you.